Dan Campbell mentions another member of the defense stepping up. We'll tell you who it is next.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Matt Derry back with you on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, a Wednesday, June 5th and a Thursday, June 6th, your team every single day. Thanks for making us your first listen and checking us out wherever you get your podcast. That includes on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel. So please subscribe and watch us on the video side on YouTube. Locked On Lions today brought to you by Gametime. You're looking for tickets to anything? Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Day 2 of mandatory minicamp going on in Allen Park today. Joining us on the program, a Locked On alum. Many of you remember him as I think he was the first host of Locked On Red Wings. Yeah. From the Detroit News, covers the Lions. The great Nolan Bianchi is with us today. Nolan, great to see you.
Yep, good to see you as well. I'm every time I come on one of these shows, I'm always amazed at the graphics packages that they've introduced since I've departed, and it's a real A1 operation you got over here. So I'm happy to be back, and thanks for having me.
Love having you back. Congratulations, by the way. You just got married recently. How many weeks has it been?
It's been about 2.5 weeks. So
wow.
Still working my way back into things. It feels like second day back at school, but we're getting the head right, just takes a couple days.
Do you feel like a different person as a married man?
I don't. Well, no, not really. I mean, I feel like a little more responsibility to, when I'm at home, I feel more responsibility, just like be a more complete person, do my chores on time, things like that. So, but that's just more me thinking about something that'll probably go away in a week or two. So hopefully not, but
Well, if you follow Nolan on Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it these days, he did put out at Nolan Bianchi the question a couple weeks ago, like, what's the biggest piece of advice? I think you put it out. Did one response or answer stand out among the others?
Yeah, and it was actually one I heard a lot, both online and at the actual wedding itself, which was, you guys are gonna fight, and that's a good thing.
Really?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. It was like good way to contextualize the challenges of a marriage. Not that I would know, but obviously not knowing what I'm getting into and things like that. Me and my wife, we don't really fight a lot, so I'm interested to kind of see how that goes, and just having the ability to get through them and stuff like that, I thought was good advice.
I love it. Well, congrats, my man. Great to have you back. Follow us on Twitter, by the way, at Derry Speaks, at Locked On Lions, Matt Derry Facebook fan page. Follow Nolan, as I said, at Nolan Bianchi. All right, you were back today. Let's get this out of the way. The news of the day is that Mike O'Hara, who has covered the Lions for 1,000 years, is retiring. That's a pretty big deal.
It was pretty surprising. He was pretty low key about it. He kind of just walked up to the Detroit News row in Allen Park. It's me, Justin Rogers, and John Neo, and he just kind of put his hand out, and he was like, "Hey, I'll see you guys later. Monday's gonna be my last day." So, he's a legend of the game. Somebody that I've really enjoyed the opportunity to get to know. Somebody who I always goes out of his way to talk to me whenever he sees me, and just a good dude. I'll definitely miss him.
Yeah, Mike, of course, covered the Lions for, it was decades at the Detroit News. And now, of course, at DetroitLions.com, we'll try to get him on the show for sure. All right. What takeaways from today, kind of spark interest for you in terms of what you saw out there on day 2?
I thought Goff was throwing the ball pretty well today. That he was definitely the quarterback that stood out. Still kind of waiting for Hendon Hooker to hit his stride a little bit. That was kind of the big thing that stuck out to me. Amon-Ra was Amon-Ra, but like he did have a day that was worth noting. And then, I thought Jameson Williams had a really strong day as well. He had a moment where, he caught a pass over the shoulder, tightly contested by Carlton Davis, and he was able to come down with it, showed a lot of really positive ball tracking developments and stuff like that. So, those are kind of the things that stuck out initially.
Ball tracking, this particular play that you're talking about, was this a deep ball? Was this something over the middle?
Yeah, it was a deep ball, one that we kind of saw Jared Goff and Jameson Williams try to connect on a few times last year, and it just seemed like something was a little off. I think back to the Baltimore game. I'm sure there were other examples, but instances like that where you're kind of hoping that he can take the top off the defense, but there was just something in the way of him and Goff managing to connect on those deep shots. And I think if you're hoping for a breakout season from Jameson Williams, that's exactly what you need to see, because then that allows them to use him to his full potential, not just for himself, but to get everybody else open.
You mentioned before Hendon Hooker. Obviously, there's that culty Lions, we love the backup quarterback part of the fan base. And now Jared Goff has played so well, got paid. And I think most Lion fans are on board with Goff and the Jared Goff chance. But, Hendon Hooker's, it's interesting. It seems like Dan Campbell is not holding back in terms of kind of ripping on him a little bit and getting on him a little bit for holding the ball too long, for maybe some reads that are not there. What are you seeing?
Yeah, it just seems like the game is moving a little fast for him right now. There was a situation yesterday where it was kind of a couple plays in a row. I felt like that he just got a little stuck in his decision making, and one of the defensive players even kind of said something to him like, "Just get rid of the ball," and obviously coming from the offense that he was in Tennessee, like that was kind of the big concern, was how would he handle the ability to process NFL reads when he's not able to just chuck it deep a lot and stuff like that. So definitely something that you're going to have to keep an eye on as he goes through it, because if a quarterback can't make a decision, he can't, play in this league as a starter or a backup. So that's definitely something I'm going to keep an eye on.
Mentioned before, or at least yesterday, how this usually is the case. The defense is ahead of the offense in terms of when you get started, when you put the shells and the helmets on, no pads yet, 7-on-7 and 11-on-11. Do you agree with that in terms of how the defense looks right now?
Yeah, I would say so. You got a bunch of guys flying around making plays. Jack Campbell had 2 interceptions yesterday. You saw guys stepping up. It's kind of interesting right now in their secondary, because they've got a lot of guys who are out. Kirby's not out there. And that's led to some good opportunities for guys like Brandon Joseph. Brian Branch is not out there. DJ Reader is not out there. So I wouldn't say it was super one-sided, at least the portions that I saw, but the defense is definitely making their plays. And, I'm interested to see what it looks like when you do have more of the starters out there, because the offense is basically at full strength while the defense is kind of A, trying a bunch of things, and B, trying to kind of cover for the injuries as well.
Nolan Bianchi with us from the Detroit News, of course, covers the Lions alongside the chef, Justin Rogers, who's one of the best in the business, as we love JR as well. Interesting. You mentioned Brandon Joseph. That was a name I brought up again yesterday too, because all of a sudden it's like, wait, the Lions don't have any safeties going into the draft. They take Vaki, but they probably going to use him as a running back. But all of a sudden Brandon Joseph is stepping up, and it sounds like Dan Campbell and the staff love what they're seeing from him.
Yeah, it really is. They do seem to be able to find these guys year after year of just like these kind of depth pieces that are really intriguing. You go back to the cornerback room a year ago, it was Starling Thomas, who ended up going to, I believe, start some games for the Arizona Cardinals in the late down the stretch last year. Jerry Jacobs a couple years ago, Stephen Gilmore last year as well. So I don't know what's in the water, but they do seem to be able to kind of replenish this crop of defensive backs without necessarily using a ton of capital on it up until the first 2 picks this year.
Are you buying Campbell saying yesterday, look, the secondary's wide open, we don't know who's playing where? Are you buying that, or is he legitimately being like, look, if Arnold and Rakestraw are the best guys, they're going to be out there. If Amik Robertson's better than Carlton Davis, we'll put him out there. Are you buying that?
Yes and no. Like I do feel like Carlton Davis is probably a non-negotiable starter. Like I would have a hard time seeing him not being a starter come week 1. Outside of that, though, I mean, I would say that like you have your guys like the Branch and Kirby and Melifonwu, who you're probably going to want to play more. But I really do think that year over year, this defense has kind of continued to push forward with the idea of becoming more versatile. And maybe it's not as clear cut with the starters because of the fact that they just want to try a bunch of stuff, and it might be a week to week thing, depending on how they want to play a certain team or whatever that may be. And I think they're doing a good job of kind of giving themselves some options, some flexibility.
How about Levi Onwuzurike's name coming up today? What can you tell us about what Dan Campbell had to say about him?
Well, I haven't, he's one of the guys that I definitely haven't seen too much of throughout this offseason program, but he's a guy that everybody seems to love. The team seems to love. He's got a really good attitude. Every time he talks to the media, he's very, I guess just honest and transparent, but just very, I guess, just matter of fact about his situation and how things have gone in Detroit so far. And he hasn't shied away from it, but he's also a guy who's looking forward to kind of turning the page and hopefully build on the health that he had last year. Because, I mean, there was a time last offseason where you're kind of thinking like, man, is this guy going to retire soon? Or
Right.
What does his future look like? And so to hear those comments from Campbell today about how much he has grown from last year. And part of it is because he was, so low with the injury and the outlook was so negative. But just the fact that he's been able to kind of be a difference maker on the practice field is definitely something that has to get them excited, because they've drafted a couple of those D linemen and it's kind of like who's going to hit. They got Broderick, they got Pascal, they got all these guys that can play on the interior, and it's just a matter of who's going to be the difference maker, and maybe he's one of those guys this year.
A contract year for him as well, so we'll see how he performs. More on the defense with Nolan. I want to do that coming up next, right here on a Wednesday, Locked On Lions. And Locked On Lions today brought to you by our friends at Gametime. We told you about the NBA Finals tickets all week, and here we are tomorrow night, Celtics and Mavs for Game 1. If you're in Boston, you're in Dallas, you're thinking about road tripping, you want to go to an NBA Finals game, you can get tickets with Gametime. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. Killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. Also, we got the Lions schedule out. Tigers are coming back home soon. You want to check out the Tigers, you can by going to Gametime and getting on there now. Hey, Kirk Gibson was on the radio today saying, let's be nicer to this team. Preach patience. You need patience with tickets. It's Gametime, baby. Right before the start of the game, you can get the tickets right there on the app. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create the account, use code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL, and get $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Nolan Bianchi is with us from the Detroit News, Locked On Red Wings former host and alum. Where are you, by the way, on your DRW? Are you fired up? Are you like watching the hockey playoffs going, I can't believe we're not in it? Where are you with your hockey team these days?
Yeah, it was such a rush to end the season, and like they just felt like such a team of destiny. And then that whole thing happened with the last two games of the season against Montreal, these two miracle wins. And then, that was a huge bummer. Like I'm not gonna lie, just I wanted to cover some playoff hockey. I wanted to see the city alive again. It was really cool. It was like not to, I guess, compare it to the Lions run, but it was cool to like see on the heels of this Lions run, like, okay, another team's heating up, like, the whole city's kind of waking up a little bit. But then, that was definitely disappointing, and they've got a lot of decisions to make. This feels like a pivotal offseason for them, where they have a lot of guys banging on the door from Grand Rapids, but maybe not enough guys who are kicking it down. So, what they do this offseason, I'm not too sure. I'm definitely more in the football these days, but I'm definitely interested to see what they do, because they had a really fun season, and I think next year is kind of the make or break year where you're looking at Yzerman and going, okay, what's going on.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any question. And obviously the Lions kind of leading the way in town, which is crazy to think, but it's true. Aline McNeil, I know there was some talk today about Campbell and the staff want to use a fullback at some point, and maybe Aleem McNeil gets that opportunity. Are we just doing kooky talk in June, or is this legit?
I don't know. Like, he made it seem like it was a joke, but then like he made it clear that he was not really joking 100%, which is like a very Dan Campbell thing to say, if you definitely actually are considering putting him at fullback. And I just think the way that they have, you just look at the Dan Campbell kind of tenure here in Detroit, and that's happened with so many guys where they're just like, hey, we can put this guy here, why not do it? Malcolm Rodriguez taking receiving snaps out of the slot last year, catching a pass in week 16 or whatever it was. But I wouldn't put it past him. I mean, Aleem McNeil is one of the best athletes that they have on the roster. He was a center fielder in college. He played running back in high school, I'm pretty sure. So he's a lot more nimble than I think he gets credit for, because he kind of came in and he was that, big guy in the middle, and then he got trim. And I think his physique now is probably a lot closer to his natural, physique that he would have walking around. And so again, with his experience, and then just with the way that the Lions have just been fearless to just put a guy wherever, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
What about the defense and when it comes to pass rush? Obviously all the talk about Aiden Hutchinson and being a top 5, top 7 edge in this league, but where else is the pressure going to come from? Are you on board with Marcus Davenport and thinking that that's a good signing? How do you kind of view that? Oh, hold on, Nolan. You're muted, my man.
Wait. Can you hear me now?
Is it okay? Go for it. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
All right. My headphones died. I apologize.
It's okay.
It's all dependent on the health. And that's kind of an obvious caveat, but I think when it's been as big of a problem as it has been with Marcus Davenport over the last couple of years, and with DJ Reader, a little bit as well, I think it is something that you have to kind of be wary of. I mean, Brad Holmes has said time and time again, like, this isn't Madden. You need the second, third guy on the depth chart to be ready. And I think you can probably expect it to play out a little bit like that, this year. You can hope that one of them stays healthy, and if they both stay healthy, for the playoff run, then great. But I think one thing that gets maybe a little bit overlooked about last year's run, and when you talk about replicating it and getting back to the NFC Championship and getting to the Super Bowl, like, they were one of the healthiest teams, if not the healthiest team in the playoffs last year. And that was a huge benefit to them. And I can see a scenario where, they improved a lot over the season, but if you don't have the best injury luck in the playoffs next year, it might be a worse outlook when you're going into the divisional round or whatever. So I like the moves in general, but I'm unsure of how they're going to play out. And I think that's a very fair kind of, with the injury history of the big ticket guys they signed, I think that's kind of a fair approach to take to it.
Tell me about the 4th receiver spot. I know Dan Campbell very bullish on Khalif Raymond and made a point today of saying we know he's going to be there. Certainly J-Mo and Amon-Ra St. Brown, but how are you viewing this competition early in minicamp here for that 4th receiver spot?
That's a great question. I think Khalif Raymond is definitely the forgotten guy of this group, and he has time and time again throughout his entire career, even going back to 2021, just been ultra reliable. And I think that when it comes to this team and this offense with Ben Johnson and Jared Goff, like, reliability is the best ability. And I can't necessarily say that I know for sure maybe how his snap counts are going to differ from, say, an Antoine Green or a Donovan Peoples-Jones, because DPJ was really strong last year and limited opportunities whenever they threw the ball his way. I can think of like 3 or 4 off the top of my head where it was, difficult throws, difficult catches, and, 3rd and long, and they pick up the first down by throwing to DPJ. So I wouldn't rule him out. And then people that I've talked to from, just other media people that have been here for the last couple of weeks seem to be kind of intrigued by Antoine Green. I guess he's another guy that Campbell's been speaking highly of. So the 4th receiver and just the idea of like how you need an extra receiver, I think it may be overblown, a little bit. And I think that you can probably go into this offseason with, feeling good about that being Khalif Raymond or DPJ or whoever it is. But I'm excited to watch him battle it out because we didn't get to see a lot from DPJ last year, and I think there is more to unlock with him. His best season in Cleveland was better than I think Josh Reynolds' best season ever. So there's definitely room for him to grow within this offense.
Well, Nolan mentioned it before about Super Bowl talk. Let's get into that a little bit and talk about the division and just expectations. All of that coming up next. Nolan Bianchi with us from the Detroit News. Locked On Lions is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes you all need the opportunity to get something off our chest. Big or small, certain things can really start to get to you. It's important to let that out, especially to somebody who's unbiased on your life. So today, I want to talk about something about how I feel. You might even be thinking about the same thing this week or something else. What about therapy? What about talking to somebody? Maybe the best opportunity for you to do that is with our friends at BetterHelp. All right. Maybe something's making you angry, sad, upset, whatever it is. It's all about talking to somebody. Therapy can be different for everybody. Most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports team or the Lions or whatever. Get some things off your chest and try BetterHelp. If you're thinking about starting therapy, seriously, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Lions in the midst of mandatory minicamp. A lot of guys out and injured and still waiting on players like DJ Reader, Frank Ragnow, and others. Nolan Bianchi was there today for the Detroit News, is with us today here on Locked On Lions. As far as guys getting behind, we'll get to the Super Bowl stuff in a second, but are you worried about that when you see, some of these names that are still, obviously Brian Branch and stuff, but is there anybody that really should be out there that isn't right now in your mind?
I think Branch is the one big bummer, right? Because he had such a hot start to last year, and then they added a little bit more to his plate, and it's not that he wasn't ready for it, but it was just a lot for him to handle. And so they said, okay, well, let's kind of just keep him in that nickel role and just let him do what he does best. And I think this offseason is really the opportunity, and I would be surprised if they weren't, kind of focused on turning him into that everything role, like we were kind of just talking about with just the versatility of the defense that they're trying to pick up. And he's such a talented player that there's definitely the opportunity there, I think, to make him into whatever he wants and the team wants him to be. So I think that's definitely something that is probably a bummer for the team is that he's not able to be out here. And then Kirby, obviously, as well, with just the amount of young guys they have in that cornerback room. And when you're trying to build that chemistry and trying to understand each other on the field, him not necessarily being out there is probably a little bit hurtful as well.
Everybody's talking about it. You mentioned it before. The next step here, going from 3 wins to 9 to 12 plus 2 with this two playoff wins, is getting to the Super Bowl after you were 30 minutes away last year. How do you think the team's going to handle that?
I think they'll as good as you probably could have handled it. They just seem to have such a strong mental fortitude on this team, and when they go through adversity, whether it's been through an individual game or whether it's been through a month, like they had through weeks like 11 through 16 last year, whatever they were, where they just weren't necessarily looking too hot. They always seem to come out of it better on the other side. And I don't think they lost back-to-back games last year. Maybe I'm misremembering, but they haven't lost back-to-back games, I think, since like week 5 of, whenever that was. There might have been a stretch towards the end of last year that I'm forgetting. But I really just think that when you have a core like Penei Sewell and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jared Goff, guys who maybe come from different walks of adversity, but like I think they all are guys who have been able to prove that they've been able to shoulder that adversity before, come out better on the other side. And I don't get the sense that that they're going to jump the shark like you might see from some other teams where they just assume it'll be easy to get back there again. I think they do recognize the challenge that is ahead of them when it comes to getting back to the Super Bowl or getting to a Super Bowl and back to the NFC Championship game. And I think they got the right guys in there to get it done, in addition to obviously all the coaches coming back. So that was huge too.
How bullish are you on the Packers, and could they make a run at this division and knock the Lions down?
I think they absolutely could. And I kind of had thought that last year. I thought the NFC North was kind of wide open. I figured the Lions were going to have a good team, but I would say just in general, like I think highly of Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota. I think he definitely, if they just had to run it with Sam Darnold this year, like I don't think that would be a problem. I'm probably in the minority on that take, but and then when it comes to the Packers, I mean, like they're kind of another team that just organizationally they're going to compete. And I just have such a hard time imagining that, Jordan Love falls off or, whatever the big Lions fan hope is for that team next year. And I do think they're going to get a lot better, and that's definitely going to present a challenge. And then the Bears as well. I mean, like that receiving core, regardless of how good Caleb Williams is kind of from jump, it's going to be able to help them along, and they got a really good defense. So I think the NFC North in general is kind of really shaping up to be one of the stronger divisions of football next year.
And I think the NFC will even be better.
Yeah.
Just the South can't get much worse.
Yeah.
Although obviously last year, Tampa kind of, pushed the Lions in a couple of games.
Yeah.
That playoff game was closer than people thought. All right. What else, Nolan? What else do we, what else do you want to throw out there?
That's a
Final
good
thing. What else is on your mind when it comes to the Lions? Anything else that's standing out?
That's a good question. I got to be honest. I don't, just coming back from the vacation, I don't have too much on my mind from the Lions so far, but I'm ready. I'm already ready for training camp. I don't really, all the Lions writers, this next month and a half for them is like their vacation time.
Yeah.
But it's just the time where I got to go cover other non-football things. And so I'm always excited for football to come back. And then they're like, oh, get out of my face. I don't want to go back. But I'm really looking forward to training camp. I love when the people are there. I just love the buzz day in and day out of, watching practice and stuff like that. So I'm excited for that, if that can count as my my final departing thought, because I have not thought much about the Lions in the last 2.5 weeks, I'll be honest.
But you not only do you cover football, but you cover the other football.
Yes.
The FUTBOL football. So
yes. Yeah.
You'll be at some Detroit City FC or Detroit City FC games, right? Or eventually this summer.
Yep. Every pretty much every other Saturday, they're playing at Keyworth Stadium. Then the women's team is doing pretty well. They're off to a hot start, so I'll be at Keyworth Stadium all summer long.
Nice. Key worth it, as they say.
Yes.
Nolan, great to see you, my man. Congrats on the newlywed status, and appreciate you coming on as always. You always do a awesome job. You and Justin, the whole crew at Det News, cover this team great. So appreciate the time.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me, and it was good to join you again.
You got it. There he is, Nolan Bianchi with us, Locked On alum and one of the beat guys over at the Detroit News. Check out his stuff at detnews.com. We're back again tomorrow.